share, subscribe.
For 25 years, we've walked side by side, brothers forged in the Marine Corps. And when the call came, we chose to walk with God. This is our journey. Welcome to the Not of This World podcast.
How's it going, everybody? This is Josh from Not of This World podcast. I've got my friend and co-host here, Steve.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We've got a pretty exciting episode for you today. Steve put together some stuff that he's been looking at and really interested in, and I'm excited to get going and see what exactly you have.
So, Josh, today, just to share with the audience, for anyone who's new, around November, I just gave up screens for the most part. For anything that's news related, I just checked out from the world. It kind of got my wits about me. And I kind of ended, it's kind of like a fast for me. I just ended that recently. And one of the things I saw as I flipped through YouTube to look at other things that I had on YouTube to watch, like music videos that are Christian, I'd see like the Sean Ryan show. It's one of my favorites. And there's a guy named Oz Perlman, and he considers himself a mentalist. And I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting. But of course, I passed by it. And one of the things that led me to do the fast was like things that happening in 3 with me. Like I'm like, okay, if it happens 3 times in my life, I'm going to pay attention to it. And this Oz Perlman thing happened with Bethel Church, with us talking about discernment and how people can deceive people. And then I got introduced to this thing called the Telepathy Tapes. And I want to take a deep dive down all of them with you today. But first of all, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. It's actually been an awesome week. I just feel like Holy Spirit has been speaking to me, revealing a lot of stuff, changing my outlook on a lot of things, and it's just one of those times. You know what I mean? When it just seems like God's really present and talking to you, and it's been awesome.
That's I feel like sometimes we've done episodes where it's me manifesting what I want out of something, and there's been other times like this where like I'm praying about it, and I feel like it's unfolding in front of me in a way that's like it's so easy. And in my head, I hope it translates to us doing the podcast together, because it's always a different thing when you put things on tape and we try and talk through things. But I feel like it's spirit led. I totally know what you mean. When God's working through your life, it just puts an easiness to everything.
Yeah, your mind is just completely at peace, like he tells you. he gives us his peace, and when we fully accept it and really realize who it is that we carry inside of us, that it really helps you to really look at everything from a different picture.
Is your family avoiding so anyone who doesn't know, we're from Arizona, and we're going through a pretty heavy flu season here. So the flu's gone through my family. I've been praying that I stay healthy, but my son was sick, and now my wife's sick, and so we're getting through it. Everything's fine, but it's always sad when you have your little ones not feeling well. So we're hanging in there, and we're gonna be fine. But
yeah, everyone's doing good now.
Yeah, it's just been an interesting ride with you care for a little kid, and then next thing you know, you're feeling it. And so
I'm just gonna say it this way for my family. My family has been healthy and is going to remain healthy.
That's amen. Yeah, you got to manifest these things into reality. So to start off with, Josh, this Oz Perlman guy, I have the ending of his show. I think it's pretty amazing. When I started watching it, I've edited it out because Sean Ryan, he's a Christian, but he curses still. And I wanted to share with you what he does in this episode. That's pretty amazing. And then he goes into, we'll take a break, and I just want to hear what you have to say about it. And then we'll dive into how he explains what he does.
Okay, so this is the Sean Ryan episode, or this is an Oz Perlman on his own?
No, this is the Sean Ryan show.
Oh,
this is him, cool. him doing a 2-hour interview with Sean Ryan, where we're kind of jumping to the end. I show a clip of the beginning for the first like 10 seconds or whatever it is, and then you get to see the ending, like the fireworks, basically. Okay. And you're like, wow, this is crazy. So, I mean, at least that's, I hope, your reaction to it. So,
yeah, let's roll it.
All right.
Oz Perlman.
Sean Ryan.
I'm scared to death right now. So
wait, I got to tell them one thing. Can I tell them what happened?
Yeah.
So I got in here, which is, by the way, this room is incredible. This is unbelievable. They showed me some history. I walked in. You got in here, I don't know, several minutes ago, I would say. And I made a point of this. I put this down. You guys were gracious enough to put my book here. I took this out of my pocket. Can we timestamp this? This is exactly what I said to you. And I said, I'm putting this down right here. You've not opened this. You've not seen what's in here. It's going to stay there the whole time. And I said, before I take this out of my pocket, you do not make a decision. You do not have a thought. Nothing occurs before that moment. Do you agree? Like, hand on the Bible, I didn't set anything up. I didn't tell you what to do. This has been sitting there since I walked in this room. True story?
True story.
Okay. You know what? I don't want to touch it again. Can I put it on your side so I can't do any fishy stuff? No, you grab it.
You want me to grab it?
I don't want to touch it again because I need them to know that nothing has happened before and this is in your possession.
Nothing
Message
has
in a
happened
bottle.
before. Somebody has been in this room from my team the entire time.
All right, let's have a fun one with you. You ready?
do
Let's try
it.
to craft a similar memory. I said that right there would be your past, present, and future, right?
Mm-hmm.
That note, that's been there for those who have been missing us. I put that here. I took that out of my pocket. I put it down. When we walked into this room and I took it out, I made you swear to God above, so they all know that when this thing came out, prior to that moment, we had not set anything up. I had not talked to you. I made a point of taking out timestamps. Is that correct? When this thing came out of my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been here in full sight the whole time on your table, not mine. I made a point of that. The past was you thought about a song. We don't even know the song, but I got the words going down. Let's go to your future, which nobody knows the future. I don't know the future. Let's go through this. Let's deja vu. You're having a birthday party. I'm sure you've had birthday parties before. Let's imagine that this is a milestone birthday, okay? And you're going to tell me this number on the spot. You're making this up right now in real time. How many guests would you invite if you're having people that you grew up with? Maybe some people within the world of media, now that you've, formed this incredible business, people that you work with, people that maybe you served with, your brothers in arms, your sisters in arms, family. How many people would be at this party? Give me an estimate or be very specific. How many people are at the party?
150.
150 on the dot, bam. Now this is the part where I have you visualize this. This is the game. You walk in the room. It's not a surprise. You know who's in there. You're looking around and you walk around and say, oh my God, how you doing, Sean? And then right at this moment, this is the part I wanted you to imagine. Somebody walks up to you, you hold out your hand, and this one person shakes your hand. Now, right before we do this, you do not know which person's name you are about to say. Is that correct? You do not know. I want to make sure that you know at this very moment, you have not decided who you are going to say. Hold on. Don't say a word. Stop.
Right.
Yes. Anything you say is going to give something away right now. So I'm saying to you, only when you shake your hand do you make the decision of who it's going to be. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Look at me. Right at that moment, you walk in, you shake their hand, and you know what? You look them in the eye, it's a family member. Blood is thicker than water. You go with a family member. You shake their hand and you look at them. Can you see into that person's eyes right now?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a guy. Is it a guy?
Mm-hmm.
How did I know? 50-50. But there's something to be said for when I do the shake and I look down to see if you look down, statistically, men are taller than women. Not always. It's not like I don't want to do gender stereotype, but if you were to look down, you may have thought it was sister, daughter, mom, wife. But when you look directly at me, you were looking eye to eye. You thought it was a guy. The guy who you picked, family member. Mix up the letters in his name. We'll try this again.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
And now that I've done this 3 times, I don't know if you noticed, it's way harder for me this time.
Okay.
Because now I can't use reverse psychology against you. Pick any letter in his name.
Any letter?
In his first name.
Okay.
Change to a different letter.
Okay.
Change one last time.
Okay.
So that was, okay. So now we try to feel it out. I know every name has a vowel. It just has to. It might have more than one vowel. I think at first you avoided the vowel. Your first choice was not a vowel, was it?
No.
No. But then later on, you eventually had to. You did hit a vowel at one point, didn't you?
No.
Never? It's like a Polish name. Oh my God. All right, let me see if I can get it. If the name was only 4 letters long, it would have been very hard to change that many times. It would have been like, which one do I do? So now I know it's a longer name. 5, 6, 7. If you saw this person, only clue, if you saw this person, would you refer to them by their first name?
Yes.
Okay. There was a hesitation, so I asked myself, because sometimes somebody picks a guy named William, but he calls him Bill or Billy. See what I'm saying? There's a, you didn't, First letter you thought of, then you switch to one further in the word. It's either the second or the one you're thinking about. K is the second letter you thought of, isn't it?
What the dude?
On your life, Sean Ryan, before I walked in this room, we didn't know each other. I asked you to imagine how many guests you're going to have at a birthday party. You spontaneously said what number? 150 people, is that right? Any one of those 150 people could have been a family member, a friend, anyone. One person walked up to you, shook your hand. In that moment, you looked in their eyes. Tell us all, what is that guy's first name?
Frank.
Frank.
Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck? Damn. You're good. Holy shit, dude. Wow.
Are you ready for the craziest part?
No.
You're not.
Yeah, I'm
I don't know if
ready.
you can handle it. I don't know if you can handle it. Around this room, you have so many parts. You are a man who loves to look back in time, but also look forward. But this is a temple. This is, I mean, it's an amazing room. Look at this. I've never seen a room like this. So when we go back in time and we're going down, that was the song. That was the song. I think you like to rock. I think this is classic rock. You did something with oomph. Most people, I said Sweet Home Alabama. I said Skinnerd. You started thinking classic rock. You said, who rocks? Who do I like? Who do I like? Led Zeppelin is the band, isn't it? It is. It is. Are you ready? That is right there in your hand. That is right there in your hand. Grab it.
Right
That
here?
came out of my pocket.
Get the fuck out.
That came out of my pocket the moment I walked in this room.
way.
Stop. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Before we had spoken a word to each other. Nothing was set up. Nothing was written. Nothing was in a phone. Nothing was talked to. There's no whispers. There's no thought that was in your mind when I walked in here and put that down. Is that true statement?
That's true
On
statement.
hand on the Bible.
Hand on the Bible.
Take out the note. Freeze right there. Take it out. Take it out. So it's in your hand, so I can't do it. It's a scroll. Pull off the rubber band and stop right there. What song was it? What was the name of the song?
When the levee breaks.
Oh, that's a good one. All right, when the levee breaks. Slowly, just one line at a time so you can read it. Read it slowly, one line at a time.
Sean, thank you for your service to our country and to all your listeners and viewers. Nothing like a song to take you back in time to a memory in a place during our interview. You'll hear when the levee breaks.
Pause right there. Pause right there. That was written before we said a word to each other. Dude. You could have thought of anything. You ready? When we went in to shake hands, stop. Look this way at me. Don't open it up. Hold it against your chest. Don't read the whole thing. You haven't read it yet, have you?
No.
Right when we went in to shake hands, in that moment, this is the gold standard. This is when you ask me, how do you do something that breaks someone's mind? You went to shake hands with Frank, but right next to him, in your mind, you saw someone else, a good friend. And it was between those two, you were just about to shake hands. What was the name of the friend you saw in your mind? You were gonna change your mind, I could tell. And right at the last moment, you said, Frank, who is the person you were thinking of?
Steve.
Read the rest of the note.
No way, dude. You'll hear when the levee breaks over and over in your mind. Also, I love when people change their mind because the other person you were thinking of was Steve. Dude, what? What the fuck? Holy shit, you have made a deal with the devil. Wow. What? Dude, what the fuck is going on? How the hell do you do this shit? Whoa. You are a scary motherfucker.
You heard it here, folks. Sean Ryan. I'll take that.
Dude. Wow.
I'd have to pull the mic off to drop it. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, that was awesome, man.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
That's crazy. Thank you. Thank you. Best of luck. Best of luck to you. Not that you need it.
You know what?
Holy
Let me ask you a
shit.
question. You got one of the team here that saw me earlier. Do they ever go on camera or no?
They can.
Get Jeremy in here.
Jeremy.
Jeremy's been watching. Am I right? Freaked out. Jeremy said to me, he goes, you got to do something insane for Sean. And he's telling me, you got to do something crazy that he'll never get. And so, Jeremy, I'm giving you something crazy. You ready? Yeah. How many interviews have you sat in on? And what's in your hand? Now put your phone away. I don't want anything in your hands. I want you to be free and limber. How many interviews have you watched from the other room while this has been done? How many? Guess.
About 110.
110. Wow, this guy's very specific. That's very specific. Imagine that you get to weigh in on the next interview, that you get to decide, and that somehow only one person's done it. We could rise someone from the dead. Anybody that's ever lived, if I told you dead or alive, pastor, it has to be someone famous. I ask people, who's the number one person you would think of? Nod your head if you can see that person in your mind, clear as day. Yeah. Number one person you want. That to me is I told you this is a common choice. If you tell somebody they're number one and you say later, he did research, I agree. The number one could have been found. He brought me in for the podcast. He's one of your producers. I could have found his name. I could have looked up online. We could have somehow found this out. I believe that somehow people would say he researched you. But the gold standard, the Frank to Steve, is when I say change your mind. Who's number two on your list? Now you see more of a struggle. Turn and look at him, Sean. Now it's a fascinating approach because now when he says to himself, who would I have done? Now he goes, who would we get in here? I think the person you're thinking of is alive. Am I right?
Yes.
I knew it. Even though I said dead or alive, he's like a cheerful guy. People that think of somebody dead, they go like, oh, I'm going to do Winston Churchill. It's a different vibe. It's very somber. I want you to think of the person's first name. I want you to think of the person's last name, okay? Is there any conceivable way that I could have found this out, looked this up, talked to somebody here? Zero. We don't particularly know each other. I arrived on set. We spoke for a moment. That's it. Why was he confused? Sean, think of the first name, think of the last name. Those are pretty easy questions. Why was there a weird tension about it? Now, I could have told you that if you said to somebody, think of the first and last name, and it was Madonna. I don't know Madonna's last name. She only got a first name.
That's crazy.
Are you behind me? Don't break the fourth wall. You see it? Sean, come on in here. Come on in here. Jeremy, I vanish right now. Poof. Like a magician. Somebody else appears in my place. In this moment, you see this person, somebody famous appears here, and you go, I can't believe who Sean's interviewing right now. Tell us, who are you imagining this very moment appearing in this chair instead of me? Say, what's their name?
Kim Jong-un.
Get the f out of here, dude. What? Holy shit. What the fuck, man? Oh, dude. I'm done. Holy shit.
So what did you think?
Wow. Like Sean said, he made a deal with the devil.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you to think of a name of a person you want to meet, or they have them on an interview with us, and they could be dead or alive. Think of it. Okay.
Okay.
Is the person dead or alive? I'm guessing they're alive.
Yes.
Is it Jesus?
Well, now it is. I should have had that as my answer.
If you answered anything else, you were wrong. So
You got me.
So like I thought of like this guy, and I was thinking about David Blaine,
Okay.
and growing up watching his magic tricks, and how you'd always see him like doing stuff on the street, and people would like lose their mind and run away. I was introducing this, or I started watching it around my family. I didn't know it. He dropped so many swear words, but my son's watching it with us, and his mind was blown. Like he's like, "How is this possible?" And I don't have an answer for him because he didn't watch the beginning of the episode. But this guy says he's basically a really professional magician.
So, yeah, I thought you said he would explain how he does it after.
He will.
So,
He will.
Oh, there's
I just
more?
wanted to get your reaction from what you saw because
okay.
you know, he's not going to share everything, but I
Yeah,
just
of
wanted to see
course.
what you thought, because to me, it's still pretty amazing, whatever he's doing.
Okay. So I'm guessing he does, well, the producer guy would be a hard one, the cast member.
was gonna say, I'm guessing he does research people. So he like the way I see him, like you said, like a really high end magician. It's almost like every every industry has people who are good, better, and then the best, right? So like a professional baseball player is the top of the top, right? Like I could be a good baseball player, but I'm not a pro baseball player. And then you've got Shohei Ohtani, who's potentially the best baseball player. And it's like he's another level than even professional baseball players. And that's kind of the way I see him because it's not it's not a spiritual gift.
Right. You haven't watched the interview. He touches on that. He says that he's probably the best in the United States. He says he's
Oh,
learned from the other men or women in different countries, and he's researched these people out and learned from them. He thinks he's probably at the top of his game for all mentalists.
okay.
And like I said, I have a video of he kind of goes into explaining how he does it. Would you like to check that out real quick, and then we can go in more into dive about how this relates to us spiritually and how we can view this from like a secular viewpoint of like discernment and how do we discern what this guy's doing? Does it sit well with us? Does it not?
Sure.
Okay, let's go into that real quick.
I have seen firsthand a lot of the time what happens with psychic is what I do. Really good psychics are like me. They know how to hit emotional centers. They know how to create memorable moments that people talk about. They also know how to do this thing where they highlight the wins and erase the misses. So when I get something wrong, like again here, some people say, oh, you nailed that. Well, you got one letter wrong, but did I or didn't I? So what you really need to do when you're a psychic is you get certain things right, but you probably get a lot of stuff wrong. Right? You're in the room with somebody who wants you to talk to a dead relative. They want you to tell them something about them, but a really good cold reader can get so much information from you just based on your watch, your clothes, what you're wearing, your mannerisms, how you talk to the people you're here with. There's so much stuff they could get before you even walk in the room that they've got a whole script ready to use to their advantage, to move you in the direction they want, to get the right thing out of you, and to have you remember when, how could he have known that my uncle who passed away from lung cancer gave me this thing when I was 12? You're like, holy shit, how could you, right? So I could do that same trick better than most of them I've ever met. Everyone I've ever met. Everyone. But that's not to say that I'm not a psychic, so I'm not saying, but I'm not saying that that person didn't do the same thing by being a psychic. I just know that I know the tricks to do that same thing they did in a different way, or Occam's razor the same way, and I'm not portraying myself as a psychic. So my answer is very simple. I am not debunking psychics. They might exist, but every psychic I've ever met, I've done better than they do.
Gotcha.
But I don't pretend to talk to dead people. I'm not trying to get money from you in exchange for doing something supernatural. I'm so honest about what I do. How I do it, I'm a little dishonest about. I like to muddy the waters. It's counterintelligence. If I told you how I did it, what's the fun in that, right? So I give you lots of different ways you think I did it. Is it just body language? No. Is it just the fact that I looked this way or looked that way, or that I pretended to write this or did that? All of those things are going to make it so in your mind you don't really know how it was done. It's a developed tact.
So
Okay,
now, Josh,
so-
you know how he does it.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's like if you were to guess how he does it. And like he brought up psychics. You've always, people fall for it. People fall for psychics all the time. And maybe there are some real psychics out there. I believe there actually are definitely some psychics out there because they've been used in cases to like find missing bodies or, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also probably 99.9% who are doing what he's doing, but not even as good at it as him.
Yeah, I for some reason as we were watching this, and the reason I even went to a spiritual side for me is I was thinking about the stories from the Old Testament, or I'm trying to think of like when Pharaoh had Moses come, and Moses was saying, "Let my people go," and he had the staff that turned into a snake, and then he had these magicians around him that performed miracles or perceived miracles in front of him. That was like, we can do the same thing Moses is doing, and how this is kind of like this has been going on for a long time.
Yeah. I'm always, when you bring up the Old Testament part of it, I always wonder what it was like back then. prior to Jesus being on earth, we're talking about times when there were still Nephilim walking the earth, which means there was actually the spirit of these fallen angels walking the earth. And they knew all of the technologies that were, that God knows. I don't know if they know
Hmm.
all of them, but they know tons of technologies that they brought to the earth that were not meant for us. And so when you talk about those guys, I wonder what access they had to these fallen angels and the information they had about technology. So Moses is doing it spiritually from God while they're bringing forth, an incantation or a spell or whatever that can have an impact on the physical world.
Yeah. Do you think, as a Christian, it's bad to watch something like a magic show or like he's a mentalist? Do you find that that's anything wrong with it? Like, my discernment
Absolutely
level
not.
doesn't. Yeah, my discernment level doesn't go off highly about him. Like he's a bad person. He's doing this nefariously. When he says, "I do lie to you," that's like as a Christian, you're kind of like, okay, that's not the best suit to do it with. But he's also putting on a
He's
show.
he's not lying to you though if he's telling you he's lying to you.
True, true.
You know what I
And I'm
mean?
not. Yeah, I'm not trying to call him out on anything. I actually think he was pretty entertaining. He seemed like a good guy.
Yeah.
Like I'm always pushing for people to be a Christian. If I was like, he's like, well, I'm a Christian, so you know,
Now, if he led us to believe that this was some type of a gift and that he was reading Sean's mind and reading this producer's mind, then stay away from the guy. Like
yeah,
that dude's just bad news, right? But he's an entertainer and he's awesome at it. Like he's
yeah.
at the top of the game. Like he's got a gift to be able to read all these signals, put them together in his mind, be able to keep them all in order, and be able to spew it back out by reading all these signals. I mean, that's a gift. He does have a gift, but it's
Did
not
it
a
did it blow your mind a
spiritual.
little bit, or was it
Oh,
without the
for
context of
sure.
watching?
Like
Okay,
the whole time, I knew this guy doesn't have some gift, right? I'm just
yeah.
thinking like the whole time I'm just like, so okay, what's he trying to get right now? What's he looking at with Sean? How's his, wording going? I'm just trying to pick it apart. I have no idea. No idea what he's doing.
But could you imagine? I mean, like, so for me, like sometimes um, discernment is a word I would use, but like sometimes we'll have something. I'm trying to think of a real world example without calling people out.
Hmm.
My wife and I will have a interaction with someone in our family or a friend, and they'll tell a story of like an excuse to get out of something, or something will happen, and they'll share their point of view. And then as we leave the circumstances, something just isn't right with me. And
Hmm.
I'll tell my wife, like, I'll kind of just get a feeling that I don't think they were telling the truth. I think they were giving us a lie, or a reason why they couldn't do something, or et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, I'm spot on. And it's not like I'm trying to say I'm gifted in anything. It's just kind of like the way people act. I can just kind of decipher it pretty easily.
And I mean, not to, take any credit away from yourself, because I think you are um sensitive. And I don't mean that like a crybaby sensitive. I mean like you're
Yeah,
sensitive to energy and feelings. So, and that is the discernment, right? So you
yeah.
have the ability to see to feel if someone is lying or making something up. So, I think I'm very similar. I have that same thing. Like I can just read through like immediately. You just have that feel like
Yeah.
that's not real. That's
Like
not true.
when we met each other, it didn't take me long to put my guard down with you at all. Like
Hmm.
it was one of those things where like I could just your genuineness and like your for lack of a better word, your soul was like you were not coming as like you were like a protector in a way. You're a loving person, and like I immediately I'm like, dude, this is like amazing. I just met this guy and I got to my duty station. This is so cool. And like for people who haven't watched the episode, he wasn't somebody I could just be buddies with right away because he was higher ranking in the military than I was. So we couldn't be just best friends, but we built a relationship over time. But
Hmm.
definitely like my discernment level with you. But there's guys in our platoon that there were some people that just we love them as Marines, but when you got off of work, there's some guys that we just didn't hang out with, and sometimes that would cross paths with me and you, where there might be a guy that I saw some value in, that I think they had a good heart, but they definitely had some qualities that you're like, dude, I would watch when you hang out with certain people, and probably 9 times out of 10, the people you would warn me about, it did not go well for me most of the time.
Well, have you ever noticed? So, like, this is something um, I've always heard from people. Like, so I've lived in a lot of different places, right? And
Mhm.
being Tucson and then Phoenix and San Diego and then
Chicago.
back to Phoenix and Chicago, all of it, right? But I've always had a group of friends everywhere that is just good, solid people, right? Just that feel. And so like I'll mix friends. Like you bring one group to the other or people from one group to the other, and everyone's always like, just gets along instantly. Everyone is just friends instantly. And then there's been a couple times in my life, business related, where I've been in, business relationships or things where it wasn't that type of person. And it's amazing because almost every one of my good friends, you and quite a few others would be like, "Hey, I don't know, man. What's up with you and so and so?" And it's just like this is strictly business. Like I know exactly what you're feeling, and I know it's there, but this is just in a business sense, which I've
Yeah,
also shifted as I've grown to know God that I just won't be around that in general.
yeah, I think and I don't pretend to know.
Hmm.
I also had a childhood where I moved around a lot. And
Hmm.
growing up in Utah where I did, it was like a lot of people like I grew up being born till I was like 8 or 9 years old, and then I moved. And just having the kind-natured people around me for the most part in my life, I definitely saw a character and a loving nature from those people that showed me what love is. And I think God sent those people in my life at that time. But when I moved on to different places, even just being around kids, it really taught me to gravitate towards those people. And I think God gave us these gifts of being able to navigate in a way that shape us who we need to be. And so we
Hmm.
steer clear of certain people, be able to see through certain things, like just even people who are, I don't want to call anyone evil, but there's definitely people who are influenced by things that like you can just sense they have no intention of being good towards you, and you're like just like your radar goes off.
Definitely. And so like as a kid, I don't want to call myself a feral child, but in a way I was single mom working 70 hours a week or whatever. I was on my own a lot and like having to figure stuff out. And there definitely was a lot of testing of the waters with different types of people. And I've always had that feel, right? I'd go to play with a kid who I just, who was in my class, but I'd never really hung out with. And we'd go play after school and just like the things they would talk about, the things they would do, the thing like just it was just like, ugh, I can't be around this. Like even as a kid,
Yeah,
like no, 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 this is not good. I got to stay away from
yeah.
this.
I shared that story on the podcast, I think already about the kid who strung up a cat by a string.
Hmm.
I did share that story.
I believe you did, or you've
Yeah.
shared it with me. I think it was on the podcast, but
Yeah, long story short, there was a kid his dad was never home, and he had all the good toys because his dad would I think try and buy his love. And one day I went over his house and he's like, "Let's go out into like it was the garage area." And they had kittens and I was like enamored with the kittens. They're so cute. And
hmm.
he took one and put it on a string and got a wiffle ball bat, was trying to hit it.
Oh,
And I stopped him from doing it. And I just remember being like, I didn't really like the person, and I was using him for his toys, which is terrible for me to admit now. But it's like it's the truth. Like you're like
yeah,
he wasn't the funnest person to be around. He was like that kind of playmate that's like you're gonna play the way I want.
yeah.
But just seeing that in him, where I was like, I'm not saying he was a terrible person or ended up being a terrible person, but like those kind of things, you're like you can't hide those things in people. Like some people just it's drawn out of them.
I mean, not saying that about this kid, but isn't like the first sign of a serial killer that they abuse and
Yeah,
torture animals when they're
yeah,
prior
I've
to
thought of
getting
that
into
too.
that? Yeah, I bet you have. So that's
So
creepy.
discernment level on to begin with is like so this is the first level of it like I'm talking about a secular level um and this is where we're saying it's so easy to see, right?
Hmm.
And so coming up next I want to switch topics to what happens when you start to see this on a church level. How
Okay.
are we going to use discernment when you get to a church, when you have somebody who's a leader of you and they start sharing things? How do you discern? So when we were ready, Josh, I'd like to show you that clip
Yeah.
of recently Mike Winger called out Bethel Church, and he, ironically, this morning, as I'm getting ready for the podcast, I turn on YouTube and Mike Winger's calling out. Do you know who Todd White is?
I don't.
You might have recognized him if you've seen he has dreadlocks.
I'm gonna look up
Even if you want to look
his
him
name
up real quick.
while you're talking right now.
Yeah. So Todd White, he's calling out Todd White now, and I think he's associated with Bethel Church now too. So Mike Winger is just going off on people, and Mike Winger's been one of those people like I've watched before, and he is just out to try and uh, purify the church right now. He's just tired of these bad leaders and people who are doing things that won't stand up for their congregation, and he's recently called out a gentleman by the name of Sean Bowles. And this was like 2 weeks ago. So anyone who's watching, this isn't new, but I know Josh hasn't been watching certain things, and we touched on it, but I thought discernment level wise, like I haven't seen anything from Sean Bowles. I want to check this out. And so I started doing a little deep dive into it, and I'm like, and it's 6 hours long, the Mike Winger video. But this morning he just started calling out Todd White, and Todd White's someone I've seen too, where he's more of he's a miracle worker, where he'll have somebody that can't walk and he'll heal them. But he's being called out by his congregation, and I haven't deep dived into that video, but I just thought it was very interesting. So when you're ready, I'd like to start showing you that video I collected of the incidences with leading it to what Sean Bowles did within Bethel community, because he's not a pastor for Bethel, he's just associated with them.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready to see this.
Sean Bowles. This is the guy, Sean Bowles. He's the guy that hears from God or pretends to hear from God, no matter who it hurts. Sean doesn't come off like a highbrow prophet, though. He was like the boy wonder. I'll tell you more about this. I'm telling you more about everything. It's all coming out today. Text messages, secret recording, multiple witnesses. It's all coming out. At this event in 2016, this is where Bill Johnson that's Bill Johnson on stage there with Sean Bowles in front of countless people in this stadium and probably millions who saw it online. This event was a big thing. He gets up there and he starts calling people out. We'll look at some videos of this later, calling people out in the audience. He calls out a name. He tells them their life story. He tells them God's calling them to be a missionary to this place and go here. And it was just an amazing, amazing event. Look at how Bill introduced him, because I want us to understand that Bill Johnson has responsibility for Sean Bowles.
But we're also weaving in the prophetic. And one of our dearest friends, one of our most trusted friends, is Sean Bowles. And the Lord's shown him several things.
In 2023, Bill Johnson goes with Sean Bowles on TBN, and he says the following about Sean.
But Bill, you wrote the foreword to this book. It's called Translating God, Hearing God's Voice for Yourself and the world around you. But you wrote that this was one of the most exciting books that you had read. Why was that?
Well, the book by itself is incredible. Knowing the life that backs it up adds a power to it, because it's so practical. It's what you dream of. It's like if you could have a perfect relationship with the Lord and see its impact on humanity, that's what it would look like. I get excited knowing that we could actually raise up generations of people to do the same thing.
We'll go all the way into the rabbit hole today, but Bill endorsing him like this, you will see very clearly, was an atrocious and evil act. Atrocious and evil. He set him up as a prophet to the world. He later had Chris Valentin, under his ultimate leadership, calling Sean's board, going, he needs to be pulled out of ministry. He cannot do any events with us. He can't be anywhere near our team. But publicly, they wouldn't say a word about him. And when they were asked about it, they made it sound like it was sort of nebulous and who knows what's really wrong with this guy. Then Bill goes and endorses him.
Well, the book by itself is incredible. Knowing the life that backs it up adds a power to it. If you could have a perfect relationship with the Lord and see its impact on humanity, that's what it would look like.
So we're going to look into what Jubilee Dawn says here. This is going to be her story. It's in detail. She got married because Sean Bowles. She believed in Sean Bowles because of Bill Johnson, and she almost was killed by her husband. That Sean Bowles said God was giving her to that man.
I'm going to tell you about how it directly impacted my life and almost killed me. In 2015, I was dating a man, let's call him Ted, and we had only been dating for about a month. So this church conference happened, and I am still getting to know this guy. He was 10 years older than me. It's a long story, but essentially at this conference, my ex was called out by Sean Bowles, and I am going to play that clip for you now.
When you handed me the phone last night,
I saw 50, but I know that 50 is Jubilee year. There's something about God's giving you a Jubilee. What does that mean to you? Oh, your girlfriend's name is Jubilee. That's awesome. Well, God's giving you this girl. And when we ordered the food this morning, by the way.
So he starts off by, you know, God's giving you a Jubilee. Well, he always acts shocked. You're going to see this many times. He always likes to act surprised. I don't believe a single one of these prophecies came from God. I think he's been data mining for years and years and years and years. I think he learned it from Paul Cain and Bob Jones and the other guys who did it before him. And that's my theory. Now, not everybody agrees with me. Not even everybody I've talked to agrees with me about this, but let me share with you guys the evidence. Jubilee will give you some reasons to think that this was all made up. But imagine in the moment, you're just in the audience and you hear this prophet, God's giving you a Jubilee. Oh, God's giving you that girl. You hear this. And then you tell your girlfriend this. Of course she marries you. Of course she thinks, I can never leave you. No matter if you strangle me, I can never leave you.
This is a huge advertisement in the midst of prophesying, and it's a prophetic advertisement that Tomato Pie Cafe place is like level 10 awesome, and we've been eating there for the mornings, and it's like they've been bringing us food kindly enough, and they're amazing. But does she have something to do with the Tomato Pie Cafe? Does she works there? Okay. Right. Jubilee from Tomato Pie Cafe.
So that is the clip, and that is where he said that God was giving him Jubilee. Now, in hindsight, I know that where I worked was on Facebook. The fact that we were in a relationship was also on Facebook, and he had met my ex the day before, so he was able to go home and find all that information. It's hard to put into words how highly esteemed this man is in these religious circles, Bethel being the main hub of these religious circles, and essentially you just kind of believe that anything that this man says is like the word of God, because he was a very esteemed prophet and had a stamp of approval from Bethel. We ended up getting married later that year, and he immediately turned abusive. And I suffered through about 4 years of horrible physical, spiritual, mental abuse, and it was absolutely traumatic. And he ended up strangling me a couple years into our marriage. And I did not leave this relationship because of what Sean Bowles said. I thought that God wanted me to be with this man, and it was mental anguish to unpack all of that. Obviously, I've deconstructed a lot since leaving Bethel, but at the time I was still drinking the Kool-Aid and thought that this prophet knew what God's will was. So it took the second time that he strangled me for me to finally leave. And even in leaving, I was so tormented by this decision because I didn't know if I was outside of the will of God. He strangled me for the last time in January 2020, and I wasn't able to swallow without pain for 10 days. And it was a very, very scary situation. Look up the statistics on your likelihood of being unalived after you have been strangled. I am very lucky to be alive. And just so happened, in 2020 is when everything came out about Sean. But it came out behind the scenes and nobody said a freaking word. Chris Valton is one of the heads of Bethel, and he is known for his prophetic ministry, and he has done many conferences with Sean Bowles. So essentially, it all came out in 2020 what he had been doing. Somebody had come and presented a bunch of evidence to Chris Valton, and he agreed that it was really bad and fishy, and he was fully convinced that Sean was a fraud. In 2020, they decided to silently distance themselves from Sean. So they started to take his books out of the bookstore. They stopped doing conferences with him, but they never said a word to their congregation, which is absolutely outrageous.
So I saw Michelle, and then I saw a friend of mine from Singapore, Lim. Is that somebody? Michelle Lim? Does that make sense to anybody? Are you Michelle Lim? That's good you're here. Thank you, Jesus. Praise the Lord. Do you have a September birthday by chance?
Yes, September 20th.
Ah, that's awesome. As we're doing this, is there, I saw the name Judah and I saw Judges Road. Is there a Judah who lives on Judges Road, or where are you at? Judah!
Okay, this is on the Bethel YouTube channel. This is where I got this from. They've been scrubbing all their content about Sean Bowles. Again, they're deleting and distancing things just recently, because this stuff I found after I started researching this stuff early last year. So yeah, Judah on Judges Road, he does these things. He finds out things about you, and then you feel amazed. Imagine you were in the room. Like, really imagine it, guys. You're in the room, and this guy is pumped up as a prophet from Bethel leadership, and then he gets on stage and he calls out your name, knows your address, says that God has a message for you. Thousands and thousands of people he's done this to.
Is this your street you live on? This is awesome. Is it somewhere like Louisiana or Texas or something? Texas. This is good. Only God. He knows where you live. Wow. Is April 15th something to you?
My birthday.
Your birthday!
Hear that?
You know,
See the sign behind him? Young saints. He's doing this to children. Okay? He's doing this to kids.
Judah, God knew you would be here with your older brother. I see an older brother, maybe Leon or Ryan. Ryan. I don't know if this makes sense for you. I saw Lewis and Clark July 26th. Does that make sense?
So Sean likes to take things he learns. This is my belief. Well, I mean, seems pretty obviously true. Sean takes, stuff he gets from people online, whether it's their address, and he'll try to connect their address to like a Bible verse or a Psalm, or he'll take their last name or their first name and he'll make a connection into something else, like abstract, and then he'll use that as the way of prophetically saying, oh, I knew that about you. So here he does it with Lewis and Clark.
Her last name was Clark. And I felt like you guys, what's July 26th? It's her birthday. My sister's birthday's in November, so I'm thinking maybe November 27th there was something. That's your anniversary. I'm glad you knew it. And oh, she's from St. Louis. Oh, that's really interesting. Lewis and Clark.
Well, that's Sean Bowles.
So I'm not gonna judge any people that were in that church, like that fell for this, but to me, and obviously it's different being in the moment, being there. I think it's just super easy to see that this guy's not really being prophetic. Like he looks like a comedian psychic.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and I pass no judgment on anybody who was at Bethel Church, because I can only imagine being in an audience where this guest speaker comes on and says, "Hey, is there Steve in the audience? Are you married to Nikki? Is your anniversary on this day? Is your birthday this day? Do you live on this address?" And you'd be like, "This, you believe it's from God?" Like, and not only would you believe it, you'd want to believe the Spirit's being moved through that person.
I went to a few years ago. This was probably 4 years ago now. So a friend of mine's brother passed away, and someone took him to see this guy who supposedly speaks to the dead.
Medium?
And a medium, yeah, whatever. But it's like in a room in like a big audience, right? So someone took him to see it, and he got picked that day, and they had him stand up, and the guy like said stuff that did relate to things that he was just like, "It's amazing. He's going to be in Arizona. I got to take you to see it." And I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. Interested to see it. But same thing, man. I was there, and I was just watching all these people, and it's so horrible because these people are crying. They're getting like hope because of their dead grandma or whoever. And it's just like, this is not real. Like, this guy doesn't have some gift. He's scamming people. I mean, he sees who buys tickets online. Like, he can clearly look stuff up on your Facebook. He can clearly look stuff up. Like, I just knew, like, it just 100% wasn't real. But everyone there is just so in it. And it's just so wrong. Like, this guy, Sean Bowles is his name. Like, he's the opposite of that Oz. What was his last name?
Oz Perlman?
Oz Perlman. Like, Oz Perlman is up fourth, like, or forthright. Like, he's telling you, I'm reading signs, I'm looking at things, and I'm not psychic. This guy just does that exact same thing, except he's cheating anymore. I'm sure Oz does research people on the internet prior to going and seeing them, but this guy's just pulling garbage, and he's looking like a stand-up comedian. Like, I don't know, man. That guy has some serious judgment coming to him if he does not repent and beg for mercy and forgiveness, because to prey on Christians in church, that's straight up.
It does get worse. He had people come forward sharing from his ministry that he would take people on these trips to do these whatever. I mean, I think his sermon would be for lack of a better word, but he would do these. He'd take these guys with him, and he would get them in a hotel room, and he would undress himself, and then he would pleasure himself in front of them, and he would have people say, I don't feel comfortable with this. I don't like it." But there's all these red flags that have been happening, and so this all started to boil over because uh, Bethel didn't take down the videos of him or didn't like cut him off, but they basically said you can't come to our church anymore because of all these accusations. But they didn't stop him. He kept on doing what he's doing, and I believe he's been shut down now. But Bethel came out first and just said, you can't believe everything on the internet. And anyone who goes to Bethel Church that's hearing this, I'm not coming at the church. I'm just saying, like, it's crazy to see how we can be led astray. And talking about discernment, like, I want to believe that if I was in the audience, I'd be like, something doesn't sit right with me. But I'm also want to be honest and be like, if someone said that with me, I would be like, wow, this is so amazing.
Yeah, of course you want to believe it when it happens to you, right?
Right.
But it's because it's of course someone wants to hear that God has a plan for them or a gift for them. Just like at the thing I went to, of course someone wants to hear that their dead relative is doing great on the other side and they have their dog with them and blah blah blah, like of course you want to hear that because that's what you want to believe.
Right. I totally agree with you. I just think that this discernment thing, like this conversation, like we're talking about a spiritual world, how, we are all given gifts in different ways. And like for him to like use these gifts for what he's doing is just despicable. The other thing they shared on the exposure of it all is that the church only requires you to be 40% accurate on your prophecy to be considered a very good prophetic gift pasture, which I found to be I don't know, 40% is like I thought you were a prophet.
Where does it say that?
They exposed it in the documentary. I didn't add it to it.
Oh, on Bethel they say that.
Yeah, Bethel says, for you to have a gift, you'll need to be accurately 40% of the time.
I'm not sure where it says it in the Bible, but I'm pretty sure it says a prophet is 100% accurate.
Correct.
Or they're not a prophet.
But I think that they're saying that maybe they're not calling themselves prophets, they're being prophetic. And so they called it hamburger helper for the spirit. Basically, you'll take the meat and then you add the hamburger helper. So the other 60% you're not right. It's not bad. It's just where you got it wrong. But I have never had many experiences with prosperity churches or charismatic. I think the only thing I've really been in touch with was when me and you went to that convention. Awaken, is that a charismatic church or a prosperity?
I believe they
church?
are a prosperity church.
I have zero bad things to say about the church. The speakers they brought in, even life changing in a way. I just knew it was a different vibe from my normal church, and the way they talked, and it was a good thing. It wasn't. I'm not talking about this from a negative aspect, but I can only imagine you get involved in these churches and you have this guest speaker come like this, and you're just like, this is amazing. Like the way we watched Oz Perlman, just like when I watched that, I was like, dude, this is so cool. If you want to dive into it and believe it, like especially with a leadership position like that, where you're leading people astray, you took on a calling from God as a pastor, and like you will be judged accordingly to what you did, and it's a harsher consequence. You've talked about if God is willing, you become a pastor, so you must take this more seriously than others. Do you take this like as a? I guess I take it personally when I see these people get hurt.
It's despicable. Like it's. I don't even know if I have words for like what it makes me feel when you see and you hear about things like this, because the church is such a delicate thing, right? You've got people who are trusting in God and trusting that the people in front of them are from God, and they're trying to be loving, they're trying to be kind, they're trying to serve for free, they're working for free for these churches. And when you have someone like that, I mean, it's hard. You can't blame the church necessarily, but like you said, when they did cut him off, why didn't they erase all the content? Why didn't they put out something immediately saying, we are sorry. We screwed up. We never, should have trusted this guy. That was our discernment was bad. But when they don't, then it's like, okay, I know looking at the facts, Bethel Church is a mega church. I can only imagine the amount of money coming in. And when you
He
talk
was also
about,
on.
sorry, go
Oh, sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. No. You finish your comments.
Okay, I was just going to say, and when you talk about these mega churches, those are always my biggest fear, and that's what a lot of people's biggest fear is. Is this about money? Is that what this church has become? Has it become about money? Because I don't think most churches start with that intention.
Yeah,
I think
he was on Sid Rothman as well.
Okay.
And so it's been, I made a 6 hour long video into like 10 minutes. So you're missing a lot of content and a lot of context. That I'm just trying to show you the meat on the bone that's there.
Yeah.
That you're like you sink your teeth into, and you're like, dude, there's other videos of him walking around with a cell phone, looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up, and like, sure, I'm not saying you don't use AIDS when you're a pastor, but like, I seeing it so clearly to me now, I'm like, dude, and obviously it is about money for a lot of these churches, and it just, I would hope that if anybody who is doesn't have a church right now, like, I think that's why me and you wanted to start this podcast, was to fellowship with you and to show other people what it's like to have a Christian friend, where we talk about these things, and how even if you're talking about things that are good in your church, you should be able to question leadership at church.
100% you should. And that guy, like, I can't imagine God ever putting someone on a stage like that. It's like a clown performing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think God is ever going to use someone like that? I just don't see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets sad. Is he talks to kids. There's a person who I want to say they were paraplegic, or they had some kind of medical condition that he promised them they'd be healed within like a certain amount of time, and they showed like 10 years later how they're still going through it, and they're like, but the family's like in belief it's gonna happen. This prophet from God, like when you take money for things that you are hurting other people with, like, I can't understand it.
It's just disgusting. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And I do believe in the gift of healing. I believe people do have the gift of healing. Jesus told us that the Holy Spirit would come and we'd go do greater things than him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe when someone has the faith and they have the gift of healing, that they can heal people. I don't believe that it's 100% when they do it. But I also believe there's a lot of people out there also faking it and doing the same thing this guy does, but as a healer, which apparently he pretended to be a healer at one time as well. But it's just goes to show how much the enemy is trying to infiltrate churches everywhere. Yeah. And when a church loses its initial calling, what its initial reason was for, to serve people and to truly teach about God and build a community of Christians, when they lose what their initial intention was, the enemy can get in. So to me, I would say that's what happened to Bethel. So that makes me really question Bethel, because if you're truly walking in the Spirit and you're truly connected to God and preaching his truth, I don't think the enemy can get in.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't watched our last episode, Josh and I gave 10 predictions for 2026, and I said I think there'll be a huge uprising in home churches. And one of the reasons I said that is because I think these mega churches are just and church in general. I've met so many Christians on my walk in life where we've been close to God as kids, and we grew up as teenagers, and then you walk away from the church because somebody hurt you or a pastor hurt you, and church hurt is a real thing. And that's why I said I think that these home churches popping up are going to be a big thing, because you're still going to get that hurt from other people because people are broken. But who God is in your life should not be affected by that. So the smaller the church is, the more closely related you are to people, you'll be more understanding and more forgiving about how they're broken as well. But when you take a leadership position like that, it's heartbreaking to see how people can uh, not have the consciousness, or like at least not have enough integrity to walk away from their place of power. And I'm not saying you have to be condemned for the rest of your life, but you should at least walk away from any kind of leadership position, have God work on your heart for a while before you start trying to lead other people.
And I want to clarify what I just said, because I just said some pretty strong words about Bethel. But to anyone who might listen that is part of the congregation, I don't think there's anything wrong from your end as a member of a church, because it wouldn't be your fault at any point, right? I know if I went to a church, because these mega churches, these big churches, they do that. That's the hard part to see it, is there's a lot of great Christian members. The congregations at these churches, a lot of them are just amazing, and they're truly into the church, and they're great Christians. But to be deceived in that way, like I said, I just think something's gone wrong in order for the enemy to be able to infiltrate that church. I would think twice about going there.
All right. So Josh, I would like to move on to the next part of our conversation today. It's I'm going to kind of call this our discernment in action, where I don't want to put you on the spot. I know asking you to like watch a video and be like, is your discernment about this good or bad, without giving you the complete overall perspective and time to digest some of the things I'm going to show you. I sent you a 2-minute clip that we'll share on the video about like a trailer for the telepathy tapes. I found this to be the third part of this, and when you're ready, I'd like to show you an interview with Kai Dickens. She's the person that started doing this. She touches on some of the things in the interview, but I just want to say she's kind of this person who, through watching other things of her, she had lost a family member to death, and she was kind of in that moment. Like I know I went through this not too long ago with my stepdad passing away. He's like my dad, and it shocked my world, and kind of like put me in a different place, and like kind of lost my compass in life, like because I was following God, but it didn't feel like it. And she just said she started questioning things in a different way, and the telepathy tapes are the result of that. You ready for to get into that a little bit?
Yep.
My son said to me, I can hear thoughts. And I said, impossible. And he said to me, you don't get the kind of gifts that I have if you lie.
Let's please multiply two numbers and see if he gets it.
Okay, what is it?
9, 0, 0.
Unbelievable.
1.
Maybe shuffle again, Dr. Powell. Oh.
Plus 2.
So he got the plus, too.
I was wondering, because I was looking at the 2 the whole time, and I saw his hand going somewhere else.
What is this phenomena happening? Why are his mind and my mind completely connected?
I knew that a lot of people would think, boy, Diane's gone off the deep end.
But that's the risk any scientist takes when they challenge the current paradigm.
Joining us today to shed some light, Dr. Diane Powell.
I'm working with children who have been reported by a parent to be able to read their mind.
The data was so compelling and accurate that I had to follow it, even though I knew I was risking my scientific reputation.
I started testing them, and I found that they were exceedingly accurate.
What is the next number?
3.
After the medical board took my license away, I had to prove my sanity. And once I did, I said, I'm going to prove that ESP is real.
Dr. Tarrant, he's done these QEEG scans to see what's going on.
The biggest overall finding is really this increase of activation across all the brain waves. If there was no change, I would definitely be skeptical.
If you can show a consistent pattern, particularly from kid to kid, that's how science changes. You cannot fake this.
We want answers like, where does it come from? I want to know how and what are we supposed to do?
We can't all be crazy.
We are far more powerful than we can imagine, and the implications are huge for humanity and the planet.
Heck yeah, I just discovered that literally probably an hour before this interview. I'm like, I am so excited for this second season. And I
Oh,
look, I'm
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, it's already out.
Yeah, it's been going great. We're really excited about it. It takes it, it really expands the universe, if you will.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome. How long did this season take you guys to build?
Quite a while. I mean, almost a year, and because each episode looks into something else we might have dismissed, right? So we do deep dive into, there's different non-speakers. So we do a deep dive into, can you communicate with plants, to near-death experiences, to mediumship, and can that be validated in a lab, to animal communication and energy healing and psychedelics, and really do a deep, like, historical, scientific, and experiential dive into all of these things. A lot of the non-speakers become more of a guide or teacher than trying to break the paradigm through the question of whether or not telepathy is real.
Wow.
Did you expect the season to blow up like you did? Like when you were making it, when you were putting it together, did you expect that to be this popular?
Okay, well, it's interesting because, while I was crafting it as a film, for like 4 years, I was trying to build it as a docuseries. And I thought this is the most important story I've ever told. And I felt like it was groundbreaking for the world. And, when I talk about it, when I'd be working on other projects, like I directed a short film in that time, I was out on the festival circuit with a different film. And like whenever I'd talk about this one in a Q&A, it's like where all the attention went. So I thought, okay, this resonates. Like people want to hear this. But then when I pitched it to, all of Hollywood basically said no to the idea. Like they couldn't, there was like no mandate that it fit into. It wasn't true crime. Like what category was it? Like that was just so demoralizing. Cause then I thought, was it all wrong? Like, did I completely not get what this was, So the podcast was really, my last resort since I couldn't get the doc made. I mean, now it's being made, but,
Cool.
so I always felt in my heart that this was like a big deal and that it would resonate with people. And so I never doubted that. And I trusted so deeply, like that the parents and the non-speakers were speaking truth and that they deserve to be heard and that people would be very interested. But,
Sure.
I didn't think it would go to number one or anything like that. Like that was all just completely, it's still, I haven't processed it, I don't think,
So what's different from the second season as opposed to the first season? I know you kind of like briefly explained what's going to happen in the second season, but like what's the biggest difference, would you say?
Okay, so the first season, I think really takes audience members on this journey about non-speakers who've been claiming about, that they can read minds and have all of kind of a plethora of other spiritual gifts. And my hope with this first season is when people listen to it, they'll realize that we live in a materialist paradigm, that there's more than what we can see and measure that's real, that just because you want to question or look into the metaphysical doesn't mean that you're gullible or stupid. In fact, I think most people don't exist in this binary of either you believe nothing and nothing's real and it's all, consciousness is in your brain, and or the other side of that, which is like, I believe in fairies and garden trolls and like, everything. So I think most people live somewhere in the middle, like want to really thoughtfully engage and question things. And so I hoped by season 1, people would believe that telepathy very much could be real, that there's a there, and to stop dismissing things. And that was the goal of season 1. And I think for season 2, I hope that by the time we're done with it, people will feel very certain that consciousness is the fundamental element, building block of our universe, and that consciousness survives our body. And that you could take that into like a spiritual lens of like that we have a soul. So I think if season 1 took on one big triumph, which was trying to prove that telepathy is real, I hope that season 2 will kind of validate that the soul is real.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you guys will have to listen to tell me if it's convincing.
No, that's super exciting. Yeah. So like our background, we're both Christians, and we dive into just the craziest stories, conspiracy stuff, like ancient stuff, modern day stuff, like Stargate and the astral planing, all that stuff. And so it's cool to hear just someone dive into stuff that almost validates stuff that we've talked about from history, like even back to like scripture, like how it talks about how he knew their thoughts, and like this crazy is like, what do you mean he knew their thoughts? Like, what does that mean? I'm granted he's God, but yeah, I mean, it's been super fascinating to just listen to it, and like, just, it definitely gets you outside of this like materialistic realm. Like everything's just flesh and blood. Like there is more to it all. At least that's what I've gotten from it so far. So it's been really exciting to listen to it.
Yeah. I think based on what you just said too, you're going to love, I've been deep in the depths of our psychedelic episode. And really looking at how, you know, these things were part and parcel of humanity's ability to connect with spirit throughout the history of the world, and not just humans. Like animals have foraged for things that alter their consciousness, and maybe hominids before us. Like this was always a part of the human experience. And what's fun is that episode, it's I think going to be episode 7, it does a deep dive into like that this stuff wasn't just in the indigenous, you know, communities and the Africas and Americas and, you know, like Asia. This was also in the Western world. And we look at Eleusis, which was, you know, the Greek hub of spiritual life for 2,000 years almost, where people would go and have this wine potion, and alcohol wasn't even mentioned in Greek. It wasn't in the New Testament. Like alcohol wasn't a thing. They didn't care about wine because of its alcohol. There was something else going on with the wine. And a lot of people think it had these psychedelic properties, and that when you went to Eleusis, you stopped your fear of death. Like you just understood that it continued. And it's fascinating because Eleusis would have been like 14 miles from Corinth, one of the first churches. Like you could ride your bike there. And, you know, kind of piecing back through some of that was fascinating because like the Greek god Dionysus, like, you know, he was like, it was like drink his blood and you'll become him. You'll see, you know, like what you see. And you could see how maybe the Eucharist and some of this might have kind of been inspired by this idea that like psychedelics were part of like engaging with the metaphysical world and God and angels. And maybe that's why it felt in the Old and New Testament that like God was so present. There's burning bushes and revelations and all sorts of things happening all the time.
Yeah.
But maybe humans had a little help to break down that barrier. So, you know, we really look at psychedelics around the world and how this has always been part and parcel of like the connection to spirit. And it's just really interesting that like in 400, when Constantine started kind of coming through and being like, no, you know, get rid of anything that's pagan, that the spiritual like heart of kind of the Western civilization died maybe with a lot of that. And then of course it was like, how did it some of it stayed alive? I think because women were the ones that were creating these brews and wines and potions. And you think of the witches, these ideas of women bending over cauldrons and making some potion that's going to like alter you in some way. I think there's a lot of truth in that. And that's probably the women that were like trying to keep this bridge to the divine alive. Were the people who ended up being the most persecuted. So anyway, if you have a religious interest, I think you'll find that episode very interesting.
Yeah,
for
for sure.
Sounds fascinating.
So what do you personally believe in as far as like the spiritual realm? Like, do you believe that there are, just outside of consciousness, do you believe that there are spirits, like good spirits, bad spirits, that don't even exist within our realm necessarily?
And to add on to that, has your views changed while you've gone through these seasons?
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like I'm kind of on a journey with a lot of people, you know, I mean, like a lot of people. I mean, I grew up in the Christian church. I was confirmed, like I consider myself a Christian. I was saved, you know, and all that stuff. Like I was a Bible study leader, like in high school, I was part of the Young Life, you know, and then I kind of went through my own reckoning of like, I don't know what I believe. Like I'm not sure anymore. Not that I ever doubted God or anything. It was just like, I think organized religion is so damning and so harmful in many ways and has created so much division and death and just like devastation in a lot of ways, right? By being so judgmental and stuff. So I kind of went through my own reckoning of like, what do I believe? And like a lot of people, I think you deconstruct what you believe and then reconstruct it again to figure it out. And so I've been on my own journey. And I think people are kind of on that journey with me, especially in season 2. It's like a huge, if number 1 was deconstruction, season 2 is reconstruction. And I like, for sure, I believe the soul survives death. And what's fascinating to me is like, I think what so many non-speakers say about good and evil. And I didn't put a lot of that in the season 1 because I was like, people aren't ready for this. If like all of this that is out there is too much or could be perceived as too much, like taking it just one step further is going to like really be too much. But I can't tell you how many spellers and their parents will say that their children talk about not just ghosts and seeing the departed, but interacting with God, with angels, but also with dark forces, or demons. That comes up all the time. And then, so that's interesting. But then like even working on season 2, like we interviewed a man, Jose Rubio, who helped find missing kids in the jungle after a plane crash, 4 of them, by taking ayahuasca. And he was able to like
the missing children. Yeah. The documentary. Wow.
And so, yeah, that's like, so we interviewed him as well as like the leader of the Kuntanawa Nation in Brazil about ayahuasca and like how it works. And when Don Rubio found those missing children, like he used ayahuasca. For people who aren't familiar with the story, he said he looked through the eyes of like jaguars and animals, was able to exactly isolate where these kids were that had been missing for 5 weeks. But then he said something and I was like, well, okay, that's what's going in our episode because that's fascinating. But then he said something really interesting that we're not putting in the episode, that he was fighting off dark spirits the whole time to keep them safe. And I was like, what on earth does that mean?
Wow.
And he was fighting dark energies. So it's like, whether you're talking to non-speakers or some of these people engaging outside of like our typical monotheistic faiths, there's a common reoccurring theme that there are forces at work. And that I'm still grappling with because it feels so mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
And scary.
So, I mean, the show sounds really, really interesting. And the trailer for it definitely gets me interested because I fully believe that people have different gifts. And I'm not sure, I haven't wrapped my head around, I guess we don't know. We don't have an answer to, I mean, we live in a fallen world. Like man has fallen further and further. Our genetic code has fallen. So maybe these are like almost birth defects that allow like a certain part of their brain to be open more than it used to. Or maybe it's a result of technology at a small age. I don't think that, but I think technology can have impacts on people's brains and autism. And I don't know. It definitely sounds fascinating. As far as her specifically, I hope she gets back on the right path. That's the only part that concerns me about this show. Is I wish the church would do a deep dive on people with these gifts. Randomly today on my way home from work, I clicked on a podcast and I haven't listened to any in a while. I just actually was just like, I'm going to listen to something I'm driving home. And I think it was put in front of me because of the episode we're going to be doing today. And it was a woman who had a bunch of gifts. Like she was, would see things that weren't physically there to other people, would have things in her room at night and whatnot. And she could, tell future events and things like that. And people led her to being a witch. They said, oh, it sounds like you're a witch. And she said she just had a hole inside of her whole life because she didn't fit in. She wasn't like anyone else. And so she was just like, I guess that's right. I was meant to be a witch. And so she got into witchcraft and then demonism, and she started, putting up shrines to Satan and weird things in her house because it progressed and she allowed access and she had these demons coming to her. And eventually she says Jesus came to her because like she started learning about Jesus somehow. Like it was like it started as a pull. And like we all experience actually, when we're first coming back to God, there's just like a pull. And you start having little bits by little bits where you're like, oh, okay. And then, a little more here. And anyways, she eventually had an encounter with Jesus, which sounded amazing. But my point being behind all of that is this woman sounds like she's lost in her own faith. She knows there's God. We know there's God, but she's talking about the universe. She's talking about, using psychedelics. And so I hope she's not influencing people towards that new age stuff, which is just going to be a road, a road to hell.
But I don't mean to correct you. I don't think she's talking about doing psychedelics. She's talking about what psychedelics have done for people to open them up to the spiritual world.
She was talking about it in a very positive light, and how she thinks people called witches, were, just trying to keep that avenue aligned. But she even said it herself. This guy took ayahuasca and he had to fight off demons, because I do believe some of these psychedelics open us up into a spiritual realm between, mushrooms, LSD, ayahuasca, DMT. They put you into a spiritual realm that I don't think people are ready for, and they're opening themselves up. The Bible says that that the devil can masquerade as an angel of light. So when you're opening yourself up to these realms, if you don't know how to handle yourself and, fight off these possibility things, like these evil things, you're opening yourselves up to be influenced by them.
Okay, so let's take a step back, okay?
Okay.
A little bit, because I kind of opened a can of worms by bringing it up this way. The telepathy tapes start off with kids with apraxia, which is where your body and your mind don't connect, where these kids can't move their body properly. And she found out a doctor by the name of Dr. Powell, who was trying to study this stuff and couldn't get things going in the right direction. And they teamed up. And so season 2 goes into all these crazy things that she just mentioned. So if we kind of go back a little bit, I'm more interested in these kids who have these defects with them, where she goes to interview one of them, and the parents saying basically, like, my kid can read my mind. And they can interact by them touching things. And then as the more she dived into this, it's just fascinating, because it's a small knit community when these people start talking. And I kind of want to give you the option to go down this path as much as you want. Or you can call it quits pretty quickly. Like, maybe you watch episode 1, and if you're like, I'm not interested in this, we don't have to go further down.
No, I'm very interested in all the material. And that's what I said from the start. All of that sounds extremely interesting.
Okay. I just was like, I almost wanted to put you on the spot and have you tell me, what do you think? And I'm going to leave the audience with a clip from episode 1 when we're done speaking. And I don't even need you to respond to it today. I just wanted to give an opportunity for us to have a neutral playing field before we start talking about it, to see where you feel about things too, because I can totally understand what you're saying about the devil. And I, as I'm going through this, looking at it from a spiritual lens, like, that's where I'm coming at with this new year. I was like, a new year for me is going to be diving into spirituality and like what that means for me. And as I'm listening to this interview, I totally think I could see God doing this to a person who has no ability to talk, no ability to share themselves with the people around them, how God would give you a gift of that nature to be able to talk to people through your minds. And I just started thinking about the NDEs we've listened to, and the people that get to heaven and they don't talk in heaven. They talk to each other telepathically. And I'm like, a light bulb went off for me. I'm like, that totally makes sense, that God would give someone the ability to do this as a gift. It just kind of spoke to me in that way. And there's just connections that start happening along the show where Kai meets this doctor. They meet one person. They're suggested to go meet a next person. And then you'll start to hear the story gets even bigger, because these kids talk about this place called The Hill. And they all go in their own separate places, like almost like prayer. And they kind of like go in their own I don't know how to explain it, like their own realm. But they start talking about people they know in the interviews. I mean, like, I know that person. And these kids who've never met start talking about each other, and they're friends. And then eventually she gets some of these people together, and like, it's really captivating. It's really cool. And I just, my discernment's dropped because of this, like, kind of the mix of the two, right? Like, we're talking about the beginning with Oz Perlman, where we're like, my discernment level's not up because he's entertaining me, but this is also something that entertained me. So I mean, I'm like, I wanted to take a step back a little bit, share it with you, and have you come to me with your opinions because, like I said before, I trust your discernment a lot, and so
Yeah.
I know some of the things Kai said is a red flag for you, and I totally get it.
Huge.
Yeah, I get it. I really do.
She
I thought the same
She
thing.
talked about drinking a demon's blood.
I think she's talking about. I don't know if she actually does the things.
No, I know she doesn't do the things, but her entire being is the New Age universal expansion. Nothing to do with Jesus Christ as the Son of God and the way, the truth, and the life.
I understand,
and that's where I met in the beginning. I wish someone was introducing these kids that are gifted from God. I wish they were introducing them to the truth rather than going the other route with it.
I'm hoping that's something me and you can explore. I think that we can explore this on our own and like start to learn things because it's like these things happen in 3 for me, where I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this. God, I'm listening. It's like I didn't connect these things all together at once, but as I started to listen to these things, and I'm like, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this? I just thought of the Oz Perlman thing and how it's like this way, and then the next thing with Sean Bowles, and just this, and I'm just seeing the connections in it. It's like, okay, God does move through things, and how we are living in a spiritual world. And these things sound like too good to be true, but I also we've talked so much about the devil tricking us. I think that like part of the deception of the devil for some people is taking us from the spiritual world, making everything material.
Absolutely.
And so that's like a big thing that they get into is the materialists, like the gatekeepers, definitely try to keep this information from getting out.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. I'm always going to go back to Jesus.
Yeah.
Because again, I'll say it again. He is the truth, the way, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him.
Yeah.
And while there is a lot of truth to what New Age says, it's been twisted away from Jesus to Jesus just being a prophet.
Yeah.
And that is where it's wrong. And that's where it leads people down the wrong path. The truth is, yes, there is a spiritual world. Yes, our soul goes on. Yes, there are gifts available to people. Yes, we can manifest things through our words, through our minds, and through our thoughts. But that has to be centered back to Jesus, knowing that it is him dying on the cross, his blood being shed that covered all of our sins, that allowed us to be free to receive the Holy Spirit. And that is where those gifts come from.
I completely agree with you. I think from talking to you right now, the things I'm thinking about is like, your discernment level does sound like it's up about her. And I wanted to present this to you in a way that I took it in. I didn't want to just come at you with the shiny package that's like everything seems great and it's like really entertaining. I wanted to kind of show you like this is where it started with me. And I've heard Sunday Cool's the guys that were interviewing them, they have their own podcast and they touch on all kinds of things that are fun for me to listen to. But they've talked about her numerous times on the show. I just never outside of their show looked into it. I just always found their stories fascinating. And so when I finally got a chance to hear her interview, I think like you, I was kind of like, okay. I mean, they started off the disclaimer saying that they don't share the same opinions as her, and that but they want to respect everyone else's opinions. So I totally get it, and I think it's just listening to it first, and then she's showing it to you because I wanted you to hear who she was, so that you have that discernment going into it.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
With what I said, I think she probably created a fascinating show. I'm very interested into seeing the content, and I hope and pray that she is eventually brought back to the light because she's clearly an intelligent person. She's clearly probably a good person in the way she lives her life and clearly trying to help people in her own way. I just hope she comes back to the true way.
No, we were listening to the same thing a minute ago, and I wanted to maybe I got disconnected somewhere or I didn't pay attention to it the few times I've listened to it. I thought I heard her say she grew up in the church. She no longer believes in the church, but she didn't say she prays daily is what she was saying, and she's definitely seen the spiritual side of everything. That's kind of like it is tough to give you a little bit of a part of an interview without the whole thing too, you know. So my guard's not down about her. I'm saying that more like I'm more open to hearing what she has to say because I've been in her position where I've questioned things before.
Okay. Yeah, she said she grew up Christian, but she said she walked away from it. And
She walked away from the church is what I heard, but I might be wrong.
But the other things she said, and the fact that when they started talking about Jesus, her face went like this. That told me everything. Again, no big deal.
Well, I for people who are watching the podcast right now, let us know what you think. If you're like, we're a little late to the game. This is not a new show. This has been going on for a while now, and if you've watched these tapes and you feel like this is from not a good source, say it in the comments. Let us know. Let's open this up to what other people think too. Like if we're just getting started, and Josh, you're saying like how you feel about things, and in the comments you're like, stay away from this, it's not from God. Say in the comments. Like I'm not opposed to, and I'm not trying to lead anyone anywhere. I'm just trying to share something with you guys that I think there's something to it, and I think it's something God's working through.
I'm not saying don't watch it because it's not from God. I didn't say that. I'm not saying that. I said I'm interested in watching it. I believe fully in these kids having spiritual gifts. I just hope the kids get led to the light and not to a false reality.
Yeah, that's why I brought it to you. I wanted your honest opinion. I'm not trying to judge you at all either. I just was trying to share it with you in a way that's a fair shake at things so we can both come up to the same conclusion at the end. If we say we disagree on it, that's totally fine. We've got to both walk with God. But I know God will use people when they're broken still to share what He wants out of things. And I think it's not fair to you to dangle the carrot in front of your face and say we're going to talk about something really interesting and then show you the other part. Because I just as I prayed about it, I'm like, I got to give Josh all the details because I agree with you.
You knew I was going to think that about her.
Not 100% because I honestly I had on in the background, and maybe when you get the time to just sit and focus on something, maybe I'm going to go back and watch the interview and see, because I'm hearing something from you different than I took in. But this is this episode's about discernment, right?
Yeah.
And so your discernment levels are something where I shared with you, when you share something with me, I take a deeper look into things, And so for me right now, I'm going, what did I miss? Because I trust you. And so this is the thing where I get to go back and look at things and go, I see what he's saying. This is something I need to proceed with caution. Or I find you to be a very reasonable person that if you can be not swayed, but you can collect new information and you might change your mind. And that's
Absolutely.
that's a great thing about you is you'll step back. If you're wrong, you'll say you're wrong. If you misread it, then you'll say you misread it. And that's the beautiful part about being friends with you is I don't have to worry about offending you, and you're gonna just fly off and be like, I can't believe you brought this to our podcast. You're open-minded,
Yeah, I am. I'm open-minded, and I'm yeah.
So Josh, we jumped into this episode, and it's probably my fault. I was super excited about sharing all this with you. I hope everybody's listening got something from it, and I hope maybe you had some takeaways. But normally we start with a Bible scripture to share what we're going to be talking about. Now that we've gone through it, I'd love to hear those.
Not of this world. Bible verse of the day.
Okay, yeah. I had 4. Now that kind of funny. Now that we've done the episode, I'm going to read 3 of them.
Okay.
The first one is Galatians 5:25. Since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. The next one is going to be Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. And then the last one, Ephesians 4:22 through 24. You were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. The first 2, I think, had a little more to do with what we talked about today, living by the Spirit. And that's, a spiritual world we live in. And just yesterday, I was actually praying to God kind of about showing me more of how to live in the Spirit, how to pray in the Spirit. And as I was driving to work, I got this like download kind of, and it was basically, it was like the Holy Spirit was talking to me, and he's saying, you've had a dog, right? Do you just give your dog as much food as it wants and allow it to eat as much as it wants? And it's like, no, you feed your dog what it needs. And okay, do you let your dog just go to the bathroom wherever it wants? Do you let your dog go, I'm going to say it, but like hump other animals, or what I just this was going through, and I'm just like, no, it was just like, well, your spirit is separated from your body. When you were born again, you died to the body and you now live through the Spirit. So look at your body as an animal where you are in control of what that body needs. The body does not control what your spirit needs. So feed it what is right. Control it where it needs to be controlled, and discipline your body how it needs to be disciplined. And that made so much sense to me on how to separate living from the Spirit. Like, I'm different. I am not part of this flesh. We are above the flesh. We are living from the Spirit as born again. And that just made so much sense as I was taking that in. And so while we're talking about this episode, I just think it really pertains to that spiritual world of what is bigger than this fleshly life we live in. And then also with the Romans, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And I think that just goes into discernment perfectly, that renewing our mind, keeping our mind on heavenly things, on things of goodness, on things of righteousness. And in that way, we're going to be able to separate and be able to have that discernment to know what is of God and what is good and true.
Perfect. I love it, dude. I think I think you walked out scripture, even in just the way your opinions are about like some of the things we talked about today, without you knowing what we're diving into. You walked it out perfectly. I thought, it's pretty cool to see that in action.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping what I hope is that me and you will, on our next episode, we can talk about episode 1 of the Telepathy Files, or however far you get into it. We can bring it up. Maybe we'll find the parts that you found to be good, or things that you can find that your discernment's telling you, like, dude, we shouldn't listen to this. And we can share it on the next podcast. With that being said, I'd like to say goodbye to everybody now, and I'm going to leave you with what I found to be the most exciting part of episode 1. And so we'll see you guys next time.
All right. See you guys. Thanks for joining. Please like, comment, or subscribe. We'd love to hear from you.
Amen. See you guys later.
Later.
Stop recording.
Stop recording.
She took me through an array of emails.
We have made her multiple tests, and he would answer correctly every time. Then I made up a number in my head, and she wrote it. He was writing the answers from my thoughts. She can read other people's minds besides me. Looking forward to hearing from you. Take care.
What surprised me was that all of these people from various corners of the world were all saying a version of the same thing. They had a child diagnosed with non-speaking autism. Doctors and/or educators had told the parents their children would never communicate or perceive the world beyond the level of a toddler. However, through a leap of faith or a twist of fate, these parents discovered their kids were in there. And in these cases, the kids learned to communicate via an iPad or a letterboard. And once the kids were communicating, the parents discovered through various means their children could read their minds. And they would test this unbelievable assertion over and over again, only to find that it was true. Many of these parents were not believed and felt alone, and they all had the same concerns. They had concerns about educating their children, They didn't know how to hide birthday presents or candy without it being found. They didn't know how to protect their private conversations or thoughts. And what touched me the most is these parents were grappling with something that they believed to be absolutely impossible. But here they were. They were watching something unfold that had no rational explanation. And they literally had nowhere to turn but this email inbox.
So this is an email that I received from Sophia, and this is her first contact with me. Hi, Dr. Powell. I am from Mexico. I had a cousin, Mia. She is 12. She can't talk and didn't communicate with us before. Recently, she got an iPad and started typing things. We thought she could read books in seconds and had photographic memory. My aunt read her some paragraphs and she could finish the sentence or said on what page it was. And this may sound silly, but she is reading my aunt's mind. We have made her multiple tests, not professionally, and that's what she really does. Just her mom's mind, so far no one else's. We don't know what to do now. I greatly appreciate your time reading this. I hope you could answer me. Thank you, Sophia.
I asked Diane about the career implications of her following this line of research.
I knew that a lot of people would think, boy, Diane's gone off the deep end. But that's the risk any scientist takes when they challenge the current paradigm. The data was so compelling and accurate that I had to follow it, even though I knew I was risking my scientific reputation.
After spending the weekend with Diane, I headed back to Burbank, feeling like my brain was being bent into a new shape. I was grappling with a collision of facts. Dr. Powell seemed smart and ethical and clearly wanted to conduct sound research on this topic. She also felt a strong sense of responsibility to take seriously the numerous emails that she was receiving from concerned and bewildered parents. During my time with Dr. Powell, I also learned how hard it was for her to get research funded, and I got the feeling she was just tired of hitting brick wall after brick wall. And it's a good moment to note why this is. The reigning philosophy in science is something called materialism. This notion says all things in our world are the result of interactions between physical matter, right? Like things we can measure and observe. And research into telepathy falls way outside of the materialism lane. And thus, there's just not a lot of support for scientists like Dr. Powell who are thinking outside of the box. So I was wrestling with all of this, and I just kept coming back to the families. I just couldn't believe that parents of non-speaking kids who don't know each other from all over the world are in on a mass conspiracy theory to trick the world into believing in telepathy. That's just impossible. These families don't know each other. In fact, most of them reaching out to Dr. Powell felt utterly alone. They weren't sure if they were the only ones in the world that this was happening to. So from my point of view, there was something big and something real going on. And as a documentarian, I was pretty sure this was going to be my next big project. But in order to fully commit and dive in, I needed to see it with my own eyes. I thought about that family in Mexico from the email. Mia and her family had never met Dr. Powell. And it occurred to me that if I could get Dr. Powell and the family to Los Angeles, I could document a killer test for Diane with cameras from every angle, with mics on every single person. So I pitched this to Diane, and she was gracious and open to the idea. But she wanted to Zoom with Mia's family first, and they were open to her filming this first Zoom meeting.
This is Mia.
Hi, Mia. Nice to meet you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she's waving.
Is this the mother over here on the right?
That's right.
Yes. Nice to meet you. What is your name?
Ileana.
In the Zoom image, we see Sophia, who's Mia's adult cousin, and her mother, Ileana. Sophia is the only one in the family who feels comfortable speaking English, so she's doing most of the translating. There are some other family members in the room who don't introduce themselves. I think one might be Mia's brother and her father, and you can just tell that everyone's excited to be there and eager to be taken seriously.
Ileana. So I'd like to hear from her when she first started realizing that maybe this is what was going on with Mia.
Sí, ¿quieres saber cuándo fue como la primera vez que te diste cuenta que tal vez eso es lo que podía estar? Just recently, in October, November.
At this point, the adult cousin, Sophia, grabs off of the table an acrylic letterboard. It looks like a piece of paper about 8.5 by 11 inches. It's clear with letters and numbers in black written upon it.
Mia uses this board to communicate. She doesn't speak. And now with the pandemic, she's been like homeschooling. So she recently discovered that she can type like on the iPad and like that.
Dile que Mia me escribió que ella podía leerla.
And Mia typed her that she could read her mind. She's aware she can do that.
Do you know how long she's been doing that?
She recalls having memories even since she was in her mom's womb. That's what she says, and that she can read her mind ever since.
And so was she developing normally and then regressed?
She was diagnosed when she was 2.5 years.
So she never developed language. She never was able to speak.
Nunca puede hablar. No, never.
And what is she most interested in?
The música. Music. She likes music. Water. She likes water. Just
swimming. What kind of music does she like?
Mexican music.
Oh, okay.
Like Selena. Do you know Selena?
At this point, Mia walks into frame and grabs the letterboard. And then she types something that seems out of left field. Mia very deliberately writes out Monterey, where she's from.
Her mom asked her in her mind to tell her where is she from, and she says Monterey, our hometown.
So you're asking her these questions and then she's answering them. I see.
When I watched this for the first time, this moment was monumentally weird to me because Ileana, the mother, will ask Mia questions with only her mind, to which Mia will answer with the letterboard. So we will not hear Ileana asking a question. But just like any mother will be like, come on, tell them where you're from, or, come on, participate. Ileana was doing that in her mind, encouraging Mia to start writing.
I noticed it looks like she's not even looking at the board. Is that true, that she oftentimes is just kind of pointing like this without even looking?
Yes.
I wonder how she does that.
She wrote in her diary that when she reads, she sees different colors.
Mia says she can see colors around numbers and letters, which is scientifically referred to as synesthesia.
So does she see colors around different letters? A is always blue, or, and C is always green?
Yes, like that. Sometimes she sees a reflection of the colors, and that's why she doesn't need to see the letter.
Yeah.
She sees the colors.
Mia's mom explains that Mia keeps a diary in the form of an ongoing Word document where she'll enter her thoughts and memories.
Have you ever tried doing something like thinking of a number and then she can give you the number?
At this point, Dr. Diane and the family exchange WhatsApp information because Diane is about to start a test.
So I'm gonna give you a number.
And she proceeds to send a number to Ileana, who looks at it, then turns over the phone, and Mia, who's far away on the other side of the room, but we can see her, is clearly not seeing the number that's sent. And now Mia is walking from the far corner of the room where we've had eyes on her to her mother so she can begin to type what number was just sent. Mia has a huge smile on her face. It looks like she's loving this moment, and she types in the correct number.
Very good. Okay. Let me try sending a word.
No, that's how it's translated. Okay.
Dr. Diane sends the family a word. Mia comes over again, a huge, huge smile on her face, and she correctly types in the word.
She's got a beautiful smile. Yeah, that's good. So is she pretty much 100% accurate? Is she always accurate, or does she sometimes make mistakes?
She's 100% accurate so far.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And does she like doing the telepathy?
She said that she prefers to talk with her mom, like telepathy instead of speak.
So tell me a little bit more about your reaction to this when you discovered that she could read your mind. Did she think that it was impossible?
At the beginning, she thought it was impossible. And the next day, that when she went to wake her up, she had a word in her mind. And Mia, as soon as she woke up, she typed
Mochila morada, me acuerdo.
Purple school bag. That's what she was thinking. And Mia wrote that in the iPad.
If that was hard to hear, when Mia first said to the family, "I can read your mind," they thought it was impossible. However, the day after that admission occurred, Ileana, Mia's mother, walked into the bedroom, woke her up for the day, and said, "What am I thinking about?" And Mia wrote on her iPad, "purple bag." And Ileana was thinking about her purple bag. So that moment won her over. They go on to talk a lot about Mia's interests, her health profile, whether or not she's eaten gluten, certain things that might impact Mia's body. The conversation ensues, and it's fascinating.
Is it hard to keep things hidden from her?
Her mom, she hides things, not only secrets, but things like objects. And Mia always finds them.
This one girl, she liked to eat potato chips. And when her parents would try to say,
oh, we don't have any chips left. She knew exactly how many chips were left.
Mia says that she remembers also her first appointment with a neurologist.
What did she say about that?
That she went when she was 6 months old, and that the doctor mistaken her diagnosis because he said that she had microcephalia, and that he was wrong. Her diary where she types things like that.
As if telepathy weren't enough to process, Mia has also journaled about memories which go back to her earliest weeks of life. And you'll discover, as I did, as we meet more and more families, that telepathy is just the tip of the iceberg. But then the conversation took another unexpected turn. And you'll hear Mia's brother talk here for the first time.
That ever since they discovered that she had telepathy skills, she can't sleep with the lights off. We don't know why.
And sometimes when she's in her room, I see her like looking around and she starts laughing as well.
Do you ever ask her what she sees when she's looking around?
People. She says she sees people.
I realize that this seems way off topic, but the family didn't think it was. And they certainly aren't the only family who will say their kids can see things that they simply can't.